Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and starting off our discussion right away. Engineer Riyadh, now, how do you view the significance of such a project? Social housing projects, always a good idea. I don't know if this could be considered one of the mega projects that the President has embarked since he took office, or not as mega as the previous one, the administrative capital and the expansion of the Suez Canal. Would you say that this would mark a real start to ending the rural areas here in Egypt? Would you say that this could be dealing with the infrastructure of the landscapes in Egypt?
Definitely, it is a fantastic move, and I believe, this will help a lot in the social areas and to minimize the crimes, minimize a lot of things which, is going to be, very, very important to the Egyptian people, to eliminate such places, and this will help for security, help a lot for developing, and definitely I would like to see moving out of the, of the valley area, because we are occupying only 5% or 6% of our land. Mm-hmm. I would like to see things is done 500 kilometers away from here, yes, and to develop it and so on, because we are definitely overpopulated in certain areas, although we have got plenty of land, mm-hmm, and definitely we have to develop, the desert, and to go to the desert and to create small societies, 100,000 people, 50,000 people, to enable the law to take place, mm-hmm, because I believe, the law in such big cities like Cairo is going to be difficult to apply laws.
Yes, definitely. Dr. Khoribi, now, dealing with such a mega project will not only affect the Egyptian citizens, especially the low-income brackets, but also it will affect the image of Egypt to the international community. What sort of image or impression do you think such projects will have, and will they go as planned as everyone is enthusiastic about it now? Do you feel that it will be a smooth transition, transporting and transferring all the families living in the rural areas, informal housings, the slums, into this social housing project?
Okay, first of all, when we mention informal houses, mm-hmm, it is, you can say, something not good can, mm-hmm, reach to be like a scandal. Mm-hmm. And for years and years, all of the formal Egyptian governments doesn't, look at this problem in such serious way. Our president, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, he looked at in very, very small period of time. Mm-hmm. If we look at this project as a startup or as a launching for the first phase of rehabilitating people living in informal areas to be, living in human areas, mm-hmm, like Asmarat blocks, I think it is a very great movement, and it is not only about the image of Egypt, mm-hmm, it is the image of the government and how our government are serious. Because if we look at what is happening since President Sisi started his mission as our president, mm-hmm, less than 2 years, and if we are talking about the mega projects or national projects, you can say that His Excellency is what he promised less than 2 years ago. He is fulfilling in a very, very great way. And even all of us were expecting that all of these achievements should take a longer time, but mm-hmm, it is taking already shorter time. Mm-hmm. So it's a matter of people to look at us again as we have a serious government, we have a serious president. What is remaining is people to look at Egypt to see that we have a serious citizens, mm-hmm, because the movement of His Excellency and his team I think it's great, and not only in housing. We have witnessed the mega agriculture project, 1.5 million faddan, which is infrastructure for 1/3, so 400,000 faddan is already, it has been done in 7 months. Also, we witnessed the giant project in the Suez Canal, the new Suez Canal, and the Port Said, East Port Said new canal, and which it will make this area to be the #1 logistic area worldwide. Also, we have witnessed the development of western side of Egypt in Marsa Matruh, and there is many projects which is already taking place over there. So the good thing which it happened since President Sisi is in power is he is not concentrating on the capital or the surrounding area. No, he is now looking at all sides of our country. It means there is horizontal development. Also, he's looking at all sectors. If we look at infrastructure, we witnessed the bridges, the roads, the electricity, the water. In agriculture, as I have mentioned just now, about 1.5 million faddan. Also in industrial sector, so sectorial, which is vertical, and also geographical, which is horizontal development everywhere. What was remaining is only this problem of informal houses, which he promised that it will be sorted out in the main areas, not 100% of this, because I don't want someone to come after 2 years, someone, the president says that he's going to, no, he said it was clear that he's going to solve the informal houses in the main areas within 2 years. After that, I think everything will be fine.
Yes. Well, Engineer Riyad, if this is not going to solve the problem of the 100% of all the rural areas and the informal housing, if we will solve this part of it in 2 years' time, what is the fate of the remaining rural areas and informal housings all over the country, not just the main areas or the main capitals and governorates?
I believe, we are as 90 million people. We have to help. We have to think positive. We have to see that we have to develop our country together with the government and with our president. We cannot leave only the government to do everything. We have to help them. We have to create societies which they are, there is a lot of development in it, industrial-wise, agriculture-wise, education-wise. There is a lot of things to be done, because everything has been neglected for a long time. And it's about time that we together, hand in hand, to move forward and create strategy which we are implementing to enable us to raise our standard of living and to raise our ways of living, because I believe the Egyptian human being is one of the best in the world, the eldest culture and so on. And the Egyptian human being, once upon a time, he was, in a place which I would like to see him again in that place,
Definitely. Well, the president inaugurated the first and second stages of this project, and we are still yet to start the third phase. Can you shed any light on these phases? What did we already do other than the building, and what is the third phase that we're still yet to begin?
I'll be honest with you. I would like to see that we conquer our desert and to move out of our traditional cities. And I want to minimize the number of people, because we are increasing, our population is increased by nearly 1.5 to 1.7 million people per year. And this amount of people, where they are going to live, what it is. We have to look at facts, and then those facts will give us the road how we move, because it is a long way to go, and we have to move areas where we can develop it, instead of the old areas. To develop old areas, I am not in favor very much.
Yes.
I want to go out of the valley. I want to go and see small cities, 50,000 people, 30,000 people, 100,000 people, but I don't want to see Cairo to 20 and 22 million people.
Yes.
I don't think that is a good thing.
Yes.
It's not a very good thing.
Yes.
Because I believe, let us talk about villages and towns, which, 10 or 20 years ago, what is the population of those towns and what are they now? And we say we cannot, build on agricultural land. But what these people are going to do if they double themselves in a short time? They are just, they get away with everything because now they have to see their sons living somewhere and they want them to be next to them and so on. And that's why we are going to demolish our land. That's why we have to move out.
Yes, definitely. Dr. Khoribi, now we've pointed out earlier that this project can help a lot with the unemployment problem, a lot of the security issues as well. But do you feel that transferring all the population living in the rural areas and informal housing to Asmarat, the new social housing unit, do you think that would be an easy process? Because a lot of people would argue that no, they already are working in these areas. Their livelihood is actually in these areas, and it would be very far from where they work, from their bread and butter. And not everyone can guarantee actually finding their jobs in the new social housing unit. So how is the government going to tackle these problems? Or do you think that with such a project, it's a huge project, but it will have really big problems as well?
I don't think so. It will not have any problem. First of all, the government, before thinking to shift these people to such a new way of housing, which is healthy, all what is needed from the services is already there, 100%. Shopping area, shops if someone who want to make a workshop or whatever. So it is already there. Number two, this area is already linked with all areas of Cairo by all ways of transportation. We started now with buses. I'm talking about public transportation, of course. And very soon is going to be joined by the underground, the fourth line. So I think because we have now, you can say, a smart regime. Because in the past, we were solving a problem and then creating another problem. Solving problem, creating another problem. But now we have what we are calling a sustainable solving for any problem. If you look at this Asmarat, of course, it is something like a revolution, because people which they were used to live in informal houses, it's it is not house at all. It is not humanitarian housing at all. Now they have a very nice, healthy, with all services in the area, beautiful even design. I have witnessed that myself. And there is an area for all, there is like a big market which it has everything. And as I told you, it is linked with all areas of the Greater Cairo, which most of these people are working in already, with all ways of transportation. So for sure we are not going to face any problem. But when I mention what Mr. Riyad just said now about that we should have a small communities, what he's thinking about, or what he's saying, it is in the first world, in the first class countries in the whole world, because you cannot find any cities in any place in the world, except of course like Mexico City or Tokyo or whatever. But I am with him, because up till now they have, we are living on 6% of the total area of our country. So, and I think also the government, the smart government, I'm calling it the smart regime, which started 2 years ago. They are also thinking in the same way. You can find, okay, the distance is not very far, because for sure, because you can, when we put the services for an area like New Cairo, this service is not only serving people that are living, because they are now more or less about from 150 to 200,000 people. So when we are talking about the new capital project, which is about 10 kilometers away of the New Cairo, so this new capital also should use the services which is already there. The service is something, and the residential area is something different. So I think, inshallah, within a couple of years, the situation of residential, or the problem of housing, I think is going to be sorted out for all categories of people. We are talking about very, very, very poor people, and also all other categories of the Egyptians.
Yes. Well, do you think that this project could be the first of its kind in this era Egypt is living in? Do you think that there will be another series of other social housing projects around the country, or around other cities as well, maybe in Alexandria, maybe in Upper Egypt? Do you feel that this is the start of similar projects that will follow afterwards?
It is a fact. It is a fact. If you look at the plan for solving these informal houses, it's already, because this problem, it is not only in Cairo. Okay, the majority of informal houses, you can say 80% is surrounding Cairo.
Yes.
But in the other areas, like all other government, there is already, and this is, there is already an integrated plan. When His Excellency mentioned that we need something like 14 billion Egyptian pound to finish another 106,000 units for this type of houses, it is according to a plan which covered all of the areas in Egypt, not most, all of it.
Yes. Engineer Riyad, now funding such a project, this project was established at a cost of 1 billion Egyptian pounds through the money from the Long Live Egypt Fund, also the Slums Development Fund. Now, do you feel that we will soon be running out of money from these funds? Do you feel that still Egyptians are as enthusiastic as actually putting money in these funds as they were as soon as it was established?
I said before, this is a project for Egypt, for 90 million people. It's not the government alone. And don't forget, we have got Sinai Desert, which we want to develop it. And I would rather put the money on that development outside of our cities. And all of us, instead of building in the valley, let us build in the desert for security, for a million reasons. For, if we want to industrialize a country, we have to take into consideration time. All of us, we are suffering right now from going from one place to the other. It's about time that we have to stop building in the valley.
Yes.
We have to go out. We have to see that our life is measured by time. And time is crucial and important, not only money. Money is time. Time is money. And that's why industrial-wise, agriculture-wise, living-wise, we have to create new areas in places like Sinai Desert, like outside of our cities. We have to go and have a project. This is the kind of things which it has to be seen about it by experts, by people which they are, designing things, developing things. They have to put a nice plan. But I believe, our government and our president is aware of everything, which we see it, that he is acting, very quickly and very accurately. And I believe, that he is a great guy, and we are very lucky to have him.
Yes. Well, in terms of planning and development, we are moving bit by bit, actually at quite a fast pace towards the outskirts of Cairo. But however, it's not really targeting the low-income bracket citizen. Do you think that will change?
I hope so. You know, I'll be honest, I'm not in favor of underground. I am not in favor of a lot of money which has been spent in these areas. I would like to take this money and develop it in the desert and so on, and minimizing the number of people in the cities. But we are insisting that we have to be, you know, to solve the problem of the valley. I believe the problem of the valley, it will cost us time and money, and still we are not going to reach what we should reach. That's why we have to go out.
Yes.
We have to use that money in a proper way. I'm sorry, I'm not in favor of underground, and I'm not in favor of putting high building and getting bumps from the outside of Egypt and so on. You know, we have to develop ours. We have to work, and education and work.
Yes,
that is the only way to stop importation too much and to develop things here. We have been importing a lot of things, and we didn't learn from our imported goods. The technology, we are importing technology. We have to use it. We have to see about it that we can imitate it and do it in a better way and in a lower price. We have got a lot of work to do.
Yes. Well, Dr. Khoureibi, President Sisi actually promised that this project would be done by 2 years' time, and it will transfer and shift all the citizens living in these rural areas to the new Asmarat housing project. With the current economic situation that Egypt is going through, and all the changes and the developments, whether if it's domestically or politically, do you feel that this is a realistic target?
Of course, it is realistic. And if when you just mentioned about the funding, you know, this Living Egypt Fund, I was talking with people in charge, I mean, responsible for the management of this fund, and they made a presentation for me. There is a great project, not only this one, but the problem that there is no, you know, focus in their activities and their projects. And I advised them to make something like a weekly program in TV and also a website to be to show to the whole people that this is what we use your money for. So when you convince people that this fund is doing such serious project and is helping, you know, people, all type of people, like what our Prime Minister mentioned in his speech today, starting from these people which are under poverty line. Everybody is going, you know, to make every day to say good morning Egypt and make this message or whatever. However, we should use part of this fund for making, you know, some projects which can generate income and make profit, and from this profit we can use it for making such social projects. There is already, I know that in this Living Egypt funds are studying now several investment projects in different sectors, which it has two aspects. For example, they are looking now at the recycling of the municipality waste. These projects is very, very profitable, and we are managing, I mean, the old regime, not now. They are managing it in a very, very poor way and not modern. And there is already a modern way which we can make something like 30% IRR, internal rate of return.
Yes.
And when you reach to such a good profit percentage, it means you can generate good income, and you use this income, because no fund in any place in the world depend only on donation, except of course if we are talking about the religious like zakah or whatever. But this one, even not everybody is committed to make it. So I believe that if we have something, I don't know how much we have in Living Egypt Fund, but we should use part of it to make, you know, an investment projects, good ones, very well studied, with great feasibility, to secure generating income, and we use this income to do whatever we want. It's better. It is better to do such way and we can make all of our target projects in something like 10 years instead of make a very small number of projects in 1 or 2 years, and then we don't have any money,
Yes.
any more money.
Yes. Engineer Riyad, so most of the people living in these rural areas, they're very used to living very tough lives, and they're used to really pay very little amounts for electricity, for water. Now, shifting to this housing unit with all the basic needs and commodities available, and a water system that works, electricity, natural gas, all of this. Do you feel that they could be facing a lot of problems in actually paying, for instance, the bills of actually living in these social housing projects?
We have to identify their jobs and to try to help them to raise their standard of living. We are trying to raise their standard of living by introducing them in better housing. But we have to look at it as well. What is their jobs? Where are they? How can we develop their skills? How could we make them, work in a profitable way that they can cover their expenses? This should be done, because we don't have the statistic of these people. What is their jobs? What are they doing? What are, where are they? Where is their work? Is it far away? Is it so? Can we develop them, at least their sons and daughters and their families? Give them the opportunity that the family can raise some funds to enable them to cover their expenses. All of this is needed. That's why we need statistics. We cannot talk generally. We have to go into individuals. We have to care about the individual and to look at him and to help him and to give him advices and to develop his skills to enable him as well to cover his expenses and so. We don't do that, with all respect.
Yes.
We are generalizing things. We are doing this. It's about time that we have to go into details of the details to enable us to do a better job.
Yes, definitely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there are a lot of developments taking place domestically, but also on the international and foreign affairs one. The Hungarian Prime Minister, accompanied by a high-ranking delegation, comes to Egypt to meet with the President Sisi and also the Prime Minister Sharif Ismail. Let's check out this report and we'll be right back.
Egypt and Hungary have enjoyed historically strong relations throughout their rich histories, and there are several important milestones that will be described thereafter that prove the existence of the connections and relations between these two friendly peoples in all walks of life. Last year, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi made a visit to Budapest, held talks with Hungary Prime Minister, and a number of agreements in different fields that are related to railway transport, irrigation, tourism, counter-terrorism, and projects that would bring together Egypt, Hungary, and unspecified African countries. After the talks with President Sisi, the Orban said that a new chapter has opened in Hungarian-Egyptian relations, adding that the agreements that were signed would bring dynamism to the two countries' economic and political ties. At a joint conference, Orban said that Egypt and Hungary economic networks of ties had survived all types of political regime, and Hungary's presence in the country had always been strong, mentioning especially military cooperation. El-Sisi said that the Orban addressed Egypt's position on the fight against terrorism, on possibilities of conflict resolution in Libya and Syria-Iraq conflict. Before their meeting, Orban and El-Sisi signed a joint declaration and two other cooperation pacts that had been signed by the two countries beforehand. Addressing a business forum organized by the Hungarian National Trading House later in the day, Orban said Hungary was interested to see Egypt succeed. President Sisi told the forum that after 4 years of instability, Egypt has embarked on the path of growth. He asked Hungarian companies and investors to contribute to the process. On his part, Foreign Minister said that the institutional background was available to take Hungarian-Egyptian business and trade relations to a new level. He said that Hungary opened a trading house in Egypt in 2014, as a result of which Hungarian exports to Egypt jumped by 88.3% in January to March 2015, adding that bilateral trade between the countries rose by 67.6%. Hashem Salman's Egypt's Minister of Investment told the forum that his country builds the economy on 3 pillars and that Egypt is increasing its free trade relations and its consumer markets are growing.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and joining us now right away over the phone is Engineer Hassan Shafai, head of the Egyptian-Romanian Business Council. Hello, Engineer Shafai, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you very much.
Engineer Shafai, first of all, the visit of the Hungarian Prime Minister to Egypt, accompanied with a high-ranking delegation. Can you point out the main purposes of this visit? Does it have a very specific goal to achieve, or are we actually building on the visit of President Sisi to Budapest that took place last year?
No, I think, of course, you know, the visit last year from our president to Budapest is a consequences to this visit. But the delegation and the size of the delegations, when we're talking about a prime minister with 5 ministers, when we're talking about 67 businessmen representing a lot of varieties of businesses from Hungary, they are all coming to achieve something. We have a big conference tomorrow, actually, between the Egyptian Businessmen Associations and the Hungarian delegations. And there are going to be 15 agreements is going to be signed. So there are a lot of activity already in the process, in the pipeline. There are a lot of talks about different areas. I think the report saying the business trade between our two countries has jumped over 60% in last few months. This is all encouraging. I think we lately concentrate or focus about East Europe. We're doing very fine with most of the countries in East Europe. Hungary is one of them. Hungary is traditionally known by their cooperation with us in different industries, such as railways, such as aviation and airports, businesses, and a lot of other things, actually. They are very well known in the heavy industry. So we can really use the investors from Hungary to Egypt by getting the know-how in some of the specific areas. I think we need some support in it. So when we really succeed to attract 67 businessmen, elite from this country, I think somebody done a good job, and all what we have to do now to continue doing the good job to really finalize the deal. So I think it looks very promising. I hope the end of the negotiations with these delegations will be very successful for both countries.
Engineer Shafai, you've mentioned a lot of cooperation that would take place between Egypt and Hungary in the agricultural and irrigation sector, also transportation sector, also tourism as well. Can you tell us about any sort of imminent projects that we're actually going to witness in the very near future? Is there something that we could be looking forward to?
I think what you're going to see very soon, a cooperation in the railway business in the whole area, between supplying some of the wagon, between some of the spare parts, between cooperating and establishing spare maintenance shops for these organizations. This organization is suffering very badly in Egypt in the last few years, and I think this will be one of the areas they can really be very successful. They have the know-how, and they've been helping us or cooperating with us before. I think this is one of the areas we will see a lot of cooperations. The second area, I think, is aviation and airports. You will see a lot of work between these two areas as well. I'm not going to talk about the military because I don't know a lot of details about it, but in industry there are quite a few, but I think we will start with the areas we already done some business with them in the last 50 years or so.
Dr. Engineer Hassan Al-Shafei, head of the Egyptian-Romanian Business Council, thank you very much for joining us. Dr. Khoureibi, now, as Engineer Shafei actually mentioned, there seems to be a lot of energy and effort being exerted towards really strengthening the relationship between Egypt and a lot of the Eastern European countries. It seems that Eastern European countries are much more flexible or easier to actually strike agreements and get on the same wavelength and platform to actually achieve some development and progress. Is there a specific reason for that? And if not so, why didn't that happen a lot earlier?
Okay, if we are talking about Hungary, Hungary is member in EU, so it is not belonging to East European, it's belonging to EU community. It means what? It means that, you know, Egypt and the EU, they have an agreement which is a partnership agreement since 2009. According to this agreement, all of the Egyptian products go into European Union market tax-free without paying any customs. And up till now, we didn't use this agreement because we don't use, I mean, you can say you are using it something like 2% of what we were expecting, because our products, it doesn't, you know, most of it reach to the requirements of the European citizens. So when we are talking about Hungary, especially Hungary, beside what Engineer Shafei mentioned, we know that Hungary is very, very advanced in producing agriculture equipment and something like tractors, like harvesting machines, like whatever. And we know that we are going now to 1.5 million Faddan project, and most of it, it's a new area. So it needs such equipment because we are going to use what we can say the mass production tools or method in such project. So all of this, it needs the agriculture equipment, and Hungary is very, very advanced in this sector. Beside that, he talked about the railway, which of course Hungary is very advanced in such sector as well. But the problem here, and myself and Engineer Shafei, we are member in Egyptian Businessmen Association. And we have been, I myself, they sent me to participate in the conference of tomorrow. And they send that there is a conference attended by the Hungarian Prime Minister and our President, and he's, you know, the Prime Minister of Hungary is, you know, accompanied with the 65 businessmen and whatever. I think since we know this information a long time ago, it's a matter of about from more than 30 days. Why not since all of this time, I don't know the specialities of these businessmen. They are coming. No homework it has been done, and always we are like this. Since the first international economic conference in Sharm el-Sheikh last year, always we are announcing just a few days before the event, and the event is coming, and we are making focus over the event, and after that there is no any follow-up mechanism for either for the result or what is next. Now he mentioned that our president, His Excellency, visited Hungary last year, and also he had a delegation with him from business community, and of course he had officials. Okay, what was the results? What were the results of this trip? And how we link these results with this visit? We don't have this one. Unfortunately, we don't have in any sector in Egypt. Okay, what we need to do for such, economic events, which we have mainly we have an economic problem that we should prepare it. We should make our homework. And as I mentioned before, even with you,
yes,
many times, that we should have a follow-up mechanism for all events, and not only for us as professionals, but for everybody. Why not? To make, we have now internet. Everybody is using internet now for chatting, for Facebook, for whatever. Why not to have a website for the economic relation? We don't want to look at diplomacy or whatever. Economic relation between Egypt and Hungary. And we in this website, we mention about the first visit, and this is the agreement, and then the second visit. And we should put something like a one-year plan for achieving what we used to agree on. In this way, only this way, it will make people, they will trust what we are doing. But everybody, what's everybody saying now? Saying, okay, every day from, between each conference, and last few days we had 4 conferences. 4 conferences, and this is number 5. So in 1 week we have 5 conferences. Okay, what is the end results for normal people, which, at the end they will ask all of us, we are going to be asked, because, they look at us that we are the professionals, we are understand. So without a follow-up mechanism for all of these events, we will reach nothing. We will do nothing, nobody will trust us, and this is going to be something, it will touch our national security.
Yes. Well, Engineer Riyad, as Dr. Khoribi mentioned, obviously there's a lack of planning ahead of such meetings and visits, maybe a lack of following up the results after these visits, whether they're coming here to Egypt or we're going there. Not necessarily Hungary, but in general as well. Do you feel that lack of both these stages of the process, do you feel that this is really, it's not really about the private sector, it's not really about the foreign investor, and it's mainly all these visits are, we're talking about economic and trade agreements, government to government, and the rest is I don't know how to explain it, but just fulfilling the rest of the picture, unless something really happens, quite a big strike of luck between certain businessmen takes place, and that's where they take it from. Do you feel that these visits are mainly government-to-government businesses, or do you feel that the private sector could also benefit from it, even though there is a lack of planning and following up?
I believe, let us now stop over that there are 65 businessmen. Who are they? In which sector? What are they? What is their job there? What kind of business they are running? How big is this business? What is their importation and exportation? What can be done with Egypt? Why they are here? What is the purpose of their coming here? With whom are they going to meet? Maybe there is too many people which they can approach them and can do a good job with them, even not on that visit. They can go there. Why don't we identify who are they and what are they? This is very important. If it is now they are signing agreement and so on, this is very nice. But what about, if we are talking now about private sector and we want to develop things, and these people, they are in certain sectors, maybe there is trade between us and them, we can export to them, we can, this all of needs information, and this information, lack of information, they should even published, even in our newspaper, who are they?
Yes.
And what is their email addresses, and what is there, and what they are doing, and how big is their business, and what, all of these things is needed, because it's not restricted to certain people. It is not a monopoly.
Yes. Well, Engineer Riyad, do you feel that We've been talking about this issue for so long, the investment law, and actually how big of a problem it is to actually attract the foreign investor here in Egypt. Do you feel that such a problem still existing will always be an obstacle to attracting foreign investors here? Or do you feel that when it's a government-to-government agreement or contract, do you feel that the investment law doesn't really apply?
We have to change a lot of our thinking, our approaches, our way of, doing business. We have to develop it much better. Businessmen in Egypt in general, they have to achieve a lot of things, their approaches to things has to change.
Yes.
We cannot live like this, The real businessmen,
yes,
we need it.
Yes, definitely.
There is a lot of things, and the criticism and so on, we have to stop. We have to imitate people. Let us not, invent things. Let us see what the other businessmen and people are doing around the world. What if such a delegation is coming? What is going to be done? What kind of information should be introduced? Who can meet them? We cannot deprive, the whole nation from the right to activate and to deal with it.
Definitely.
It's not going to be restricted to certain people. This should be done. There is a lot of, we have to be a little bit generous.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, definitely a lot of developments taking place in Egypt now. The inauguration of the first and second stages of the social housing units, Asmarat in Mu'attam district. Hopefully, this problem of the rural housing will be solved within 2 years. Definitely not on 100% of it, but at least something needs to be done, and we need to start at some point. Also, the visit of the Hungarian Prime Minister with his ministers and 65 businessmen to Egypt. Hopefully this could yield, we could yield some results and some projects afterwards. And before we go, I'd like to thank our very distinguished guest, Dr. Sharif Al-Khuraibi, the economic expert and member of the Egyptian Council for Foreign Affairs. I'd also like to thank very much Engineer Samir Riyad, member of the Egyptian Federation for Industry and the renowned businessman. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, please stay tuned for more coming up on Nile International. I'm Hani Saif. Thank you for joining us.